Thank you, Nina.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak about crown-of-thorns situation in Japan. I truly appreciate it. Today, I will speak about distribution and pattern of population outbreak of Cots in Japan over the last 100 years in association with climate change and global dispersal. So both the climate change has great impact on coral reefs. Elevated water temperature causes mass coral bleaching and change the distribution of coral reef organisms, especially in peripheral regions. So Japan is situated in the relatively peripheral area of the coral reef. We have a rapid increase of water temperature, which is about more than twice than the world average over the last 100 years. So this impacted on many coral reef organisms, including corals. So you can see left-hand side that seaweed beds that was 20 or 30 years ago turned out to be a threatened coral population like this. So there are some reports that corals around Japan are fleeing northward. Then how about coral predator? This is a life cycle of crown-of-thorns starfish. I think all of you are very familiar with this life cycle. Corresponds numerous egg and sperm in the ocean, and then fertilize, and larvae will disperse 5 or 6 weeks, and then settle as a juvenile. So if the juvenile could survive over winter, and the adult can survive, and if the water temperature is more than 13 degrees, then it becomes kind of new population. And just like in Great Barrier Reef, we have many observations that's a presumably a secondary outbreak. So as a molecular ecology biologist, I studied many aspects of population genetics of crown-of-thorns starfish, and I found genetic homogeneity along cross-shore current, like in Great Barrier Reef. So we also found that genetic similarity with the isolated island in Ogasawara, but numerical simulation results show that one generation migration would be very limited between Ogasawara and other areas of Japan. But apparently, along the cross-shore current, the larvae may disperse to different islands, so that may cause secondary outbreak. So the question are that first, range expansion of crown-of-thorns starfish observed in Japan, and question 2 is increased frequency or amplitude of population outbreak observed in Japan by this kind of global warming. So I did some literature survey. So I will start explaining question number 1. So before World War II, the northern limit of distribution of Cots was Amami Oshima. You can see on here. So for the north, there was no record of crown-of-thorns before World War II. However, in 1945, just after the World War II, local fishermen first observed crown-of-thorns starfish. So at the time, Cots was called Genbaku atomic bomb at Shikoku area, Ashizuri, Wakai, because if people were stung by crown-of-thorns, it looks like a wound that looks similar to genbaku. And in 1953, there are some observation in a little bit north like this. And 1960s, the first record of Kagoshima area, the south of Kyushu. And in 1968, the first observation has been made in Ogasawara in the further east, but like this. And in the 70s, we also found Miyazaki area and Hachijojima area in 1975 and Miyakejima in 1977. Followed by 79 at Nijima, which is a little bit north from Miyakejima. And in the western side of Kyushu, people started to find crown-of-thorns like this. So it's gradually gone northward. Not only crown-of-thorns starfish, but other reef echinoderms also expanded their range in Japan like this. So for question number 1, range expansion of crown-of-thorns starfish observed in Japan, the answer would be probably yes. At least there is no guarantee that there is completely no crown-of-thorns starfish in the northern temperate area, but at least Cots becomes more conspicuous in temperate areas in the after World War II. The question number 2 is increased frequency or amplitude of population outbreak observed in Japan. So I gather information as much as possible, like including some newspaper or traveling piece, blogs with pictures, but as far as possible, I confirm by contacting directly to the person who has posted those kind of pictures. So it was very difficult to define the magnitude of crown-of-thorns starfish by using those kind of ambiguous data, but I set some criteria to classify into the 6 categories like this. And I chose 28 sites in Japan like this. And this is a result. So before World War II, actually there was some record of outbreaks in Japan. So the first population outbreak record started from 1912, like this. So apparently, even without too much pressure, artificial pressure, there are some natural population outbreak occurring in Japan. And successive outbreak started in 1969, and it's gradually spread north and south like this, and like this. So compared to Great Barrier Reef, where you can observe relatively acute population outbreak, we have chronic outbreak in Okinawan area. So from 1992 to 1995, there was no very intensive outbreak observed in Japan. However, from 1996, another intensive outbreak started again from the western side of Okinawan Island, main island. And it also spread like this, and like this. So to summarize, in the southern area, the population outbreak intensity has not changed. We have to consider that the effort for controlling crown-of-thorns has much bigger in the previous population outbreaks than before 1995. So it's not easy to compare, but at least the intensity of a population outbreak in temperate area has been increased. So for question number 2, increased frequency or amplitude of population outbreak observed in Japan, at least in temperate areas, I think it's yes. And tropical areas showed no clear difference between the 1970s and the 2000s. It will be partly because less effort to control and less corals to eat in 2000 for crown-of-thorns starfish. So based on this data, to what extent can secondary outbreaks spread in Japan by one generation? So I summarize the data, and the frequency of distances of 2 successive outbreaks observed between the 2 years apart is being summarized like this. So you can see the biggest peak is like 100 kilometers. That means in the large island, the one population outbreak would could cause secondary outbreak within the same island, but it can also cause some neighboring islands. And you can also see the true the second peak, much smaller peak, but sometimes secondary outbreak could spread more than 300 kilometers, like this. So basically, we have to care about. We have to careful about monitoring. If one outbreak occurs, the reefs within the 100 kilometers will be the next target for the crown-of-thorns. So we need some early monitoring. This is a completely different study from our study team. We recently found Cots-specific symbiotic bacteria as a subcutilar bacteria. So I'm wondering if this kind of monitoring of this bacteria in the seawater could be also used for the early monitoring of crown-of-thorns starfish. This is a picture that's been attacked by crown-of-thorns starfish, but because of the healthy condition, not much artificial impact from land, the reefs became recover after 7 years of crown-of-thorns starfish. Thank you very much for listening.